So the first thing that you should do when you snag yourself a Sony FX3 or any camera, now that I think about it, is customize them settings. Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you're doing fantastic. I'm Aaron Dadu, a wedding filmmaker. Today we are going to be talking about customizing your settings, specifically for the Sony FX3. Now if you're in a rush, totally get it. Time is money, money is time. So I linked a PDF down below that gives you all the camera settings and everything like that. That way you can just easily follow along. And there's timestamps listed throughout the description, so you can just skip around to information that you need. So why? Why customize your camera? Plain and simple, you don't want to be wasting time on a shoot, specifically a wedding, fumbling around with your settings or trying to dial things in. Nobody wants that. And you definitely don't want to be that guy. Hey man, you gonna hit record?
Yeah, one sec. Where's the record button?
It's the red button. It says record.
Makes sense.
He's an intern. So we'll just run down real quick the settings from each page of my camera. Feel free to pause if you need to. Also, these are settings tailored more for what I need as a wedding filmmaker. This is a Sony FX3. It is more video focused. I don't really use it for photo, actually at all for photo. That is also why I have a Sony A7S3, and it has an EVF and this doesn't, so I'm not really going to be tailoring or customizing any like photo settings. So if you are wondering about how come he hasn't touched any of the photo settings, that is why. But if you do want to see how I set up my Sony A7S3 for settings, let me know in the comments down below. And need to set this up, that way we can actually film the settings of my settings. So we'll get into the My Menu, the function settings, the custom buttons later on in the video. Again, chapter markers are listed, so that way you could just skip right through if you don't want to see, like, I guess, how I have it set up from the get-go. So on the shooting page, tab 1 of shooting, file format, I shoot in XAVC S 4K. Movie settings, so this depends on what recall mode I'm in, but for the first one, we're going to be setting up 24p, 100 megabit per second, 422 10-bit. S&Q settings, don't really mess with. Proxy settings, don't really mess with. Lens comp, don't really mess with. Record media settings, I have it set for slot 1 as the main, and then recording mode, simultaneous movie shooting, and then I just have auto switch on. It doesn't really matter on that part. So for the simultaneous shooting, basically it's just dual recording to both slots of your SD cards or CF Express cards. Recover image, don't really mess with. Display media info, again, don't really mess with. So since I have 3 cameras, I like to label them A cam, B cam, and C cam. Obviously, if I get a 4th camera, you guessed it, it's gonna be called the D cam. So I have my file settings set for series. I don't have the counter reset. I mean, I can, I just have it continuous. File format, title plus date, title name, ADF for Aaron Datu Films, FX3 A cam. So on the next page, exposure mode, manual exposure for everything usually. Rest of this stuff don't really matter. I mean, it matters, but I don't really change anything. Next page down, silent mode settings, don't really mess with. Release without lens, enable. I don't even think I touched that one. Audio recording on, audio record level. So since I use an external microphone, I like to have my preamp set at 5 on my audio record level. That's where I found it has like the least amount of like ground noise, usually from 3 to 5. That is only if you are using an external like microphone, like a Rode Video Mic NTG. If you're not gonna, I would suggest having it at least at like a 15. That way you could sync via your NLE, whether it's Pearl Eyes, Audition, Final Cut Pro's like built-in audio sync, that kind of stuff. So that way it's a little easier for the software to sync the audio. Audio out timing, live, wind noise reduction off, audio level display on, timecode preset, don't really mess with. User bit preset, don't mess with. Timecode run, record run, timecode make preset, user bit, like this stuff I don't really mess with. Next page down, steady shot, have it set to standard, adjustment, auto, Zoom range, clear image zoom. That is a one cool thing about the FX3. It has a zoom rocker on the side, so I like to use that whenever I need to. And clear image zoom preserves the most detail without like degrading the quality on artificially zooming in. I have all my zoom speeds the same, so 1.8, 1.8, and then 1.1, and then fix 3.3. Next page down, emphasis record display. I like to have that on. That basically just puts a red box around the entire LCD screen. Next page down, marker display on, center marker off, aspect marker off. Depending on how you want to use, like if you use in 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio for your final edits, then you can use aspect marker on it. I use safety zone 90. I am actually going to be filming and editing and having the final products for my 2022 films to be in a 2:1 aspect ratio, a lot wider ish, cropping a little bit from the top and the bottom. Guide frame off. Next page down, auto slow shutter off, ISO, this is just whatever ISO it's at, range 40 to 409,600. I can't read. Auto manual switch set, don't really mess with it. Next page down, exposure step 0.3 EV. I think by default it's 0.5. I like 0.3. Exposure standard adjust, again don't mess with that. Metering mode, multi, face priority in multi metering on, spot metering point center. White balance, I use the Kelvin, so it's the C temp / filter. Priority set in auto white balance. So when I do use auto white balance, that is very rare, but when I do, I have it set for ambience. You could have it set to white, but ambience works the best if you're just starting out and you don't really know Kelvin scale that much or that well. You can use auto, but I highly recommend that you do dive into using Kelvin. That really just helps dial everything in a lot better, especially when it comes to color correcting and color grading. Shockless white balance, so 3 for slow. So that is another cool thing too about these newer Sony cameras. Like when you do have the auto white balance, it's not just a drastic jump. It does slowly transition, which is the shockless white balance. Picture profile, so I shoot in S-Cinetone or PP11. Honestly, it doesn't matter what picture profile you set it to. Zebra display on, zebra level. So I have 2 zebra settings. So C1 on my zebra level or zebra settings is gonna be standard range 60 ±5. This is great for getting the zebras for dialing in the skin tones of your subject, which is great for weddings because there's a lot of subject. And then C2 I have set to lower limit 95 plus. That is basically for just getting the highlights out of the sky, or not out of the sky, but basically exposing for the highlights in the sky. Say if it's not really a subject focus, or if it's more of an abstract shot or a venue shot or establishing shot, that kind of stuff. Next page down, focus mode, continuous AF. AF transition speed 4, AF subject shift sensitivity 5 for responsive. Next page down, focus area, spot, focus area limit. So this is another cool thing I like to, because I don't use any of these other ones that aren't checked. You can if you want. I personally use the spot the most, as well as the wide. It just helps for like not wasting time scrolling up and down, which I appreciate, and I'm glad there's more customability on it. Focus area color, red. Obviously, if you are shooting in like an all red room or on Mars, probably might want to change the color to like white or something. I don't know. But I have mine set to red. Circulate a focus point, do not circulate. AF frame move amount, standard. Next page down, face eye priority and autofocus on. Face eye subject human. Obviously, if you're filming in an animal, then animal. Right or left eye subject select, auto. Face eye frame display on. Register faces priority on. Focus magnifier, don't really mess with. Focus magnifier time, no limit. Initial focus magnifier ×1. Next page down, peaking display on, peaking level high, peaking color red. Again, if you're shooting on Mars or in an all red room, might want to choose another color other than red. But red does stand out, so I like red. Next page down, these are the media playbacks. Again, I don't really mess with these at all. You can if you want to set like the rating custom buttons, but again, I don't mess with that stuff. So next we have the network tab. Sometimes I do actually transfer like some like short clips from my camera to my phone. Very rare, but I do have some settings that I mess with. So send target, I have it on original only. You can send proxies if you want. And then PC remote function, have it on, and then USB, and PC only. Like this kind of stuff doesn't really, it's not really pertainable to me. It may be for you. So I would go through that to see if you need to actually tweak those. So I like to have airplane mode on. It saves a little bit on battery, and I'll take any amount of battery life I can. Alright, next is the setup tab. Again, language, English, area, date, time set to whatever. I'm in the US, so I'll do NTSC, and more than likely that's by default on base where you purchase the camera. If you want to save your settings, you can. I will link the download for my settings on here, and basically you could load it up on this tab and save your own, customize it, then save your own, whatever you want. Next page down, so we will skip these for now. I will go back to these the custom key settings and the function menu set. Screen display set. So I have it set for display all info, no info, and histogram. I don't really use the level, so I don't have it checked. If you do use the level, then you can. Record with shutter off. Some people like it on, but since the FX3 has a zoom rocker and also has a shutter, I don't want to accidentally botch my recording when I'm zooming, or if I accidentally just like graze my finger over the shutter. So I have it off. My dial settings don't really mess with, but that is another cool thing too that you could customize. Dial setup. So out of the camera, it has the front wheel as the aperture and the back wheel as the shutter. I like to switch it. For me, it makes more sense in my head where the shutter button, maybe that's where the shutter like speed control should be. And then the back one I have set for aperture. So I just switch it. Aperture, shutter, rotate, have it on normal. If you like turning dials opposite way, then put it on reverse. Dial EV comp off, lock operations off, touch operations on, touch sensitivity sensitive, touch function in shooting, touch focus. Monitor brightness, manual, display quality, standard. You can't have this set for high, but I mean honestly, if you do have it set for high, you're probably gonna use up more battery. Same thing with monitor brightness. So timecode display setting, I have it set for counter. Gamma display assist off. Obviously, if you are going to be shooting an S-Log, then you could have it on or set a custom button for it. Obviously, on whatever you're using, if you are using S-Log 2, then use the Gamma assist S-Log 2 or the S-Log 3 or HLG, whatever you are using. Remain shoot display, always display. And then these two are photo settings. Power save start time off, auto power off temp high. This one does have a fan, the A7S3 doesn't. I also have that one set on high for the auto power temp off. Next page down, volume setting 7, 4 channel audio monitoring. I have it to channel 1 and 2. This is for when I am using the audio handle. And then audio signals off. Ain't nobody want to be hearing those beeps and boops. This one I don't really mess with. I have it set for multi, and then USB power supply on. Next page down, HDMI resolution, auto, HDMI output settings. We'll have record media during HDMI output on. I mean, I don't use an external recording monitor, but I just have it on by default. Output resolution, auto, raw output off, timecode output on. So if you are using an external monitor, specifically the small HD monitors, if you have this setting turned on, it does actually put the red emphasis box on the monitor itself too. So that's another neat trick for all you small HD users. Record control on, 4 channel audio output, channel 1 and 2. HDMI info display off. If you like to have this little LCD screen display on the monitor, you can. This screen will be totally blacked out, so you don't have any of the touch settings that you would for like touch focus and all that. If that does come in a future firmware update, then I will more than likely turn this on. But as it stands now, that is not the case. Control for HDMI off. So next page down, video light mode, power link off, record lamp, only front is off. So this has a lot of tally markers that let you know you are recording. I like just having the back ones on, that way I can see it from a distance. I don't like having the front one on, just because when you see a red light, more than likely means that you're recording and people get awkward, so turn that one off. Fan control, have it set to auto. IR remote control off. I don't have one of those remotes. If you do, then turn it on if you want. Sensor cleaning, audio pixel mapping, don't really mess with. And that should be it for just those settings. Now that your settings are pretty much dialed in, we're gonna be diving into one of the most efficient parts of using your camera, and that is the custom buttons. I customize my buttons specifically for how I hold my camera. I have mine rigged up, nothing super crazy, just a little slide handle, but it's not totally different from just having the camera body itself. So it shouldn't be that much of a difference. If you have a bigger rig for your Sony FX3, it may or may not work. I'm not quite sure. Just depends on how you hold your camera. Again, link to that rig video up top. Again, we're going to be going through the custom buttons, so feel free to pause it if you need to set it properly. So on your camera, to get to your custom buttons for your video, you are going to go down to the setup tab, down to operation, customize, or page 3, and then go to the movie reel icon that says custom key setting. So on the rear, I have the control wheel set for ISO. I have custom button 5 set for audio record level. That way, if you do use or you don't use an external microphone, you could easily change the audio level. Custom button 4, I have it set for picture profile. So I use 2 different picture profiles for when I film weddings or I guess short form content. I do use S Cinetone, and then when I do videos like this, I actually film it in S-Log3. So for rear 2, I have the center button set for zebra display select. That just turns on and off your zebras. For the left button, I have it set for focus area. And then for the right button, I have it set for ISO. That is by default the same. So the down button, I have it set for AF/MF selector toggle. The reason I have it set for that setting or that custom button is because sometimes when you are tracking a lot of subject or during the ceremony, you'll have like the person going down the aisle, and sometimes it can like focus onto the person on the back that has a face exposed. Obviously there's a lot of people there, so making sure to like get your focus in and then switching down to manual focus just with the tap of a custom button, super helpful. And then for the top, custom button 1 is set to zebra level. This lets me toggle between zebra custom 1 and zebra custom 2. Again, 1 is for skin tones, 2 is for the highlights in the sky. I get to easily switch between. I usually stay in 1 most of the time, just because there's a lot of subject stuff, and a lot of the times you could easily judge when you are overexposing the sky. But whenever you just need that extra assurance for if you are totally blowing out the sky for like say an establishing shot, then switch it to zebra level or zebra custom level 2. And my index finger is right there, right like how I hold the camera, so it's super easy to toggle. Custom button 2, I have it set for white balance. That is the same. So I have custom button 3 set for AF/MF selector toggle. The reason I have it set for this way is also just because of how I hold the camera, and my thumb is just right there. It works perfectly for the FX3 for how you hold it. On the A7S III, which is also another camera I don't have 3 FX3s. It would be super easy and I wouldn't have to waste a custom button down for that, but you can change the custom button down on the back or the control wheel to whatever you want. I have it set the same on my A7S III. So that is the reason why I have it, I guess, set double. I mean, again, that is purely for me and how I film and everything like that, and the cameras I have. Multi-selector center button, I have this to not set. The reason why is because this actually can control the focus area. when you do have it on like the spot, and you could, without having to touch the screen and move your camera, and the way you hold it is a super snug, and you could easily go left and right. What I have found is sometimes you'll press down on it, and if you have it set on a custom button, it could easily just mess up with, like, a display will pop. It's like you can't do that while filming, or maybe you have it set for zebras or something, and then you have your zebras turn off or something like that. So I have it on not set, just because I like to use that multi-selector to change the focus area on my spot focusing. Movie button, have it set for movie shooting. Okay, next page down on the front, I have it also set for movie shooting. I could either use my right thumb to hit record or my pinky to hit record when I have my hand on the side handle. And when I'm filming videos like this, I could just press on the button on the front. So some of my lenses have a custom button on the lens, some don't. I have it set to Gamma Display Assist. Why? I don't know. But you can set it to whatever. I'm obviously not going to use that button. Another way to streamline your filming is to set memory recall modes, aka shooting mode 1, 2, and 3. I like to set mine for 4K 24p, 4K 60p, and 4K 120p. Just be sure when you are setting your custom memory recall modes that you are also adjusting your settings per the frame rate that you are going to be setting those memory recalls. For me, I like to use my lowest f-stop lens when I am setting my memory recalls, so it will be at 1.4 for me. If you have a 1.2 lens, use that. Obviously, whatever is your lowest f-stop lens, make sure you have that on when you are setting these memory recalls. Also, don't forget to set your ISO to the base ISO. For S-Cinetone, it is 100. For S-Log3 is 640. And then your shutter speed, making sure it's double your frame rate. So if you are going to be shooting in 4K 24, have it to 1/50. 4K 60, 1/125. 4K 120, 1/250. For how I film, I'm usually in custom mode 2 or 4K 60 a majority of the day, just because I don't know what I want to slow down, and having the flexibility of I can slow it down if I want to. If I don't, it's no big deal. For custom mode 1 or 4K 24, I'm usually using that mode for ceremonies and toasts. For mode 3 or 4K 120, I usually am in that mode for when I know I really want to slow something down that has a lot of motion. So stuff like a send-off, a sparkler send-off, confetti send-off, just a lot of, like, again, motion that you could slow down to 20%. Then we do have your settings dialed in for that frame rate that you want to shoot in. For this example, 4K 24, 1/50 on the shutter, f1.4, ISO 100, white balance 5500. I have mine on the 1.25 magenta shift. That is because I use ND filter. I'll get into that on another video if you really want me to make a video about that. When you do have it all set up and it all is standard and everything looks good, hit menu, go to the shooting tab, and then page 4 down to camera set memory, and then set it to whatever mode. So again, I like to use mode 1 for 24, mode 2 for 60, and then mode 3 for 120. Now the function settings menu, I don't typically use this setting or this custom button that often, but it's nice to have this set up to like some custom settings that you use but not as often as you would for a dedicated custom like button on your camera. Again, you could build this out to customize it however you want depending on how you shoot, and over time you'll find like, oh, I use this a lot, let me put it in my function menu settings. And then to set your function menu settings, you go to menu, go down to the setup tab, and then go down to custom, operation customize, FN menu settings. The top one is for photo. Again, I don't mess with photo, not for this camera. On the top row, I have shoot mode, white balance, gamma assist, picture profile, metering mode, and zebra level. Again, a lot of these already have a dedicated function custom button, so you don't really need. You could either duplicate it, do what you want on that. Peaking display, focus area, audio signals, steady shot. This one I do use a lot. So sometimes when I am going super handheld and I don't have time to get to a tripod or a monopod or something like that to help stabilize it, I'll put it in active mode just to give me, again, extra stabilization. And then audio record level, and then silent mode. Next is my menu. This is another way of streamlining your filming process. If I need to access a setting or a function that I can't access through a custom button on the camera or the function menu, then this is the next place I go. And to access it is just as easy as hitting the menu, and it's the top tab that pops up, and then you could set however many my menu settings. So for this, I have it set up exactly like my A7S III's, just because I want to have that continuity of making sure it's just the same across the board and not confusing my brain when I am switching from one camera to another. So you will see some like photo settings in my menu settings, so just fair warning. So on my first page, I have exposure mode, movie settings, file format, raw file type, file format for photo, and then format, and then record media settings. Next page, I have my custom ones. So custom key settings for photo, custom key settings for video, custom key settings for playback, function menu settings, and camera set memory, recall camera setting, and then my dial settings. For menu 3, I have it for HDMI resolution, HDMI output settings, HDMI info display, control for HDMI, anti-flicker shoot, interval shoot function, AF illuminator. Again, there were some photo settings on there. It is just so I have that continuity from switching from my FX3 to A7S III when I have to switch off between them when I am filming weddings. Now this is something that I do for all my cameras, and it is totally optional. It is creating a cheat sheet. Boom. I have mine laminated, but obviously you don't need to. I just love to laminate things. Looks so clean. It's really great to have, especially if, say, you have like a Sony camera and a Canon camera, or a Sony camera and a Nikon camera, or Sony cameras are just completely like generations apart, like a A7 II and an FX3. Just having little cheat sheets to let you know and remind you of what buttons and what they do in your custom modes on it, super helpful, especially for if you have a second shooter that, say, they have a Sony camera or they have the exact Sony camera that you have, but they don't have it set up to the custom settings that you have set for your camera. Then obviously having a little cheat sheet is super beneficial. This cheat sheet specifically is just enough to change major settings and just to get the shot. Again, purely optional, but I like doing it. I'll link a download below to my exact cheat sheet. Looks like that's all of it. This was a pretty long video, so hopefully it gave you some insight on customizing your Sony FX3. You don't need to follow exactly what I do or how I customize my Sony FX3, but if you do and it works out for you, by all means let me know. And again, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. And a friendly reminder, this is not a end-all be-all best settings for your Sony FX3. Set it and forget it. You'll never need to change your settings ever again. If it was, I'd probably name it that. That'd be a super long title though. I tweak my settings throughout the entirety of my filming journey, and you should as well. I just want to find what works for me and what doesn't, and I just try to strive to be as efficient as possible. After all, nobody wants to be like him.
So like auto mode is good, right? It just like automatically gets the shot for me? Like I don't need to do anything? Dude, this stuff is just too easy. Like, are you sure you're even a professional?
Bro, what? That's all I got for today's video. This was a pretty long one, so if you stuck this far, you are a trooper. Like the video if you liked it. Share if you're into that. Consider subscribing if you are not already. And follow me on all them social medias at Aaron Tattoo Films. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.